G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Dame Denise L'Estrange-Corbet from World Brand based in Auckland, New Zealand. Thanks for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And let's start with how we know each other. So Peter, our podcast editor, reached out and asked for you to come on the cast.
Yes, that's right.
So maybe tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm telling you that, am I?
Yeah.
It started very well. It started not, it was by accident really that it started. Francis and I were both working for other fashion brands. We were really, really bored. We'd both just come back from the UK. Didn't see any really high-end fashion and leadership in the industry. So we decided just to start our own business. We had $200 each, New Zealand. That was it. No family support, no family here at all. And Francis took the lease on a 100 square foot shop. So basically a cupboard.
Yep.
In High Street in 1989. So it was after the crash and everyone was saying, you're just stupid, you shouldn't be doing it.
Sorry, this is in Auckland?
This is in Auckland, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we just started with this tiny shop. We both worked in it. And then Francis was working it. I was pregnant. So when he got home from work in the evenings, we'd put our baby to bed after she was born. And I would cut out and, well, no, he would cut out, sorry. And I would machine garments into the early hours of the morning. And he would take those into work the next day and sell them. And this just continued day in, day out, 7 days a week. But it was in a time where New Zealand didn't open on a Sunday and closed at 1 o'clock on a Saturday.
Oh my goodness.
I know, unbelievable.
Yeah.
How we managed to survive that. But we always had a late night on a Friday till 9 o'clock. And it was just the support of the locals shopping with us that obviously were looking for something different. And we just gradually grew the business.
Great. And what does the business look like now? You've still got physical stores or it's just online?
Yeah, we've got 4 large stores. We closed to the end of last year due to COVID. Mm-hmm. One was in Queenstown, and of course that is a tourist capital of New Zealand, and there were no tourists coming. So that was a huge decision for us because we realized that we had to do something, and you can't let one small part of your business take down the whole business.
Yep.
So I think for a lot of businesses, you can't think about pride. Lots of businesses think, oh, well, I've got 20 shops and I'm going to keep my 20 shops. But you've got to think about long term. And if you need to close some of those shops to save the business, then that's what you have to do. Yeah. So those were big decisions for us. But, to keep everyone else employed, that's what we did.
So pre-COVID, you got up to 6 stores and now you're down to 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's terrific growth. And so 32 years ago, 1989, what age were you when you started out?
29.
29. And I've got to ask, 29, that's great.
I've worked in the fashion industry all my life.
Yep.
And so Francis is like the real creative. He's never gone to university or fashion or studied it, whereas I had.
Yep.
So to him, it's just very natural. But he had always worked in the fashion industry in London and in New Zealand.
Yep.
So it was just a natural progression, I think, at a time where nothing was happening and where people were very scared about starting anything new.
Yes.
Because of the crash, the 87 crash. So I think if you can survive that, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah. What about the online component of your sales? Is that a big part of the business, or was it before COVID? And I'm assuming it is.
It was a good part of our sales, but during COVID, it became enormous.
Yeah.
Because when we were in level 4, we still couldn't do online. You couldn't have couriers coming to collect things. So that was very difficult for us. But then when we went to level 3, we could use couriers again. So we're finding that, I think in the 3 lockdowns that we've had, people just go straight online and buy.
Yep.
Which is fantastic. But I think fundamentally for us, it's still about people coming into store, having the whole experience, the touching, the feeling, the chatting, the having it all wrapped up. That's what people like.
Yep. And maybe for the audience, can you describe what area of fashion that you may focus on?
We're very high end, New Zealand, completely New Zealand made, and have been for the whole 32 years. And that's always been very important to us. And we're very fashion leaders in terms of, we don't do the look of the season. We're very left of centre. We have collections in the Auckland Museum, in Te Papa, in the National Gallery of Victoria, and in Sydney also. So our pieces are collected for New Zealand history because they're so unique and so different, and you just wouldn't see them anywhere else.
Yeah, right.
So we're not, when I say not looks of the season, we don't do the colour of the season. We don't do, oh my God, this year it's going to be collars. Let's all do collars. We very much do our own thing. And that is why we've got our own sort of fan base, if you like. And it's always been quality over quantity.
Right. And I must ask, how did Dame Denise come about? How did that title come about?
Well, from our inception 32 years ago, we had always supported charities. So we'd only been going a few years when we teamed up with the Starship Hospital, which is the children's hospital in Auckland, but it is a nationwide hospital. And we launched some children's T-shirts, and in 6 weeks, we gave them a check for $250,000.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and so we've worked with so many different charities, Women's Refuge, mental health, and I've been an ambassador for the IHC Art Awards, which is the intellectually handicapped artists, or artists with disabilities, we like to call them.
Yep.
So I've been an ambassador with them for 3 years, but I've been working with them for I think 12 years now. And each year, I launched 2 years ago the World Legacy Charity Project, and that each year we do something to raise money for the artists and the art awards. And last year we gave them a check for $50,994 from an auction that we did. And so I think we're the most philanthropic fashion brand in New Zealand. And I think it probably stemmed from that. But I was given an award by the Queen in 2002, which was MNZM, which is an MBE for services to fashion. So then the damehood came much later, and that was services to fashion and philanthropic work.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. It was really nice to be recognised with, the highest honour. Yes,
and I assume you flew over to the UK to be bestowed that?
No, it's all done here at Government House.
Oh, okay.
So the Governor General, who represents the Queen, holds it here. So it was really fabulous.
And do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business? Went from 1 store up to 6. What about number of team members? You and Francis, so 2 FTE started effectively, and what were you kind of up to before COVID?
In terms of
full-time equivalent team members?
The same. We've got between 35 and 40 staff members, and we haven't made anyone redundant or lost anyone.
Even closing those 2 stores?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Fantastic. That's great.
We always try and find staff other positions.
Yep.
And, it's been tough, but there are decisions that have to be made, and you just have to make them, unfortunately. I think people have to realise also, I know a lot in Europe, when big factories close down and companies close down, people get very irate about that and say, well, I'm losing my job and it's not fair. But, when you're born, you're not granted a lifetime job.
No.
The company is not going to get rid of you unless they have no other alternative.
Of course.
So, they've made the best decision, and often it's the only decision. And you just have to realize that it's nothing personal. It's just the way things happen. I remember I was in England when the miners' strike happened and Thatcher was closing down all the mines.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable what was going on. But, they weren't making money.
Yeah.
It had to happen. But these people felt that they deserved a lifetime job because their father and their grandfather worked there. It doesn't work like that.
There's no commercial reality to it, no.
There's no commercial reality. And you have to just realize that if the company you're working for closes down, you've got to find something else, as hard as it is.
Yes.
And, and not only do they have to find something else, but the people that run those businesses have to. I mean, if we closed down, we'd have to find jobs as well.
Yeah.
God knows where that would come from.
When was the moment you felt like you'd succeeded?
I think in 1995, we entered the Benson and Hedges Fashion Design Awards. And this was a huge event once a year, and it was live on television. So for $70, you could have your garment paraded live. Wow,
that's great.
I know, it was fantastic. And we'd entered many times, but we'd never won. And in 1995, we made an origami outfit out of cardboard, and it won.
Wow.
And we had no idea. We were not told. We always went to the event in Wellington. So we just sat there in the audience, and we won this enormous award, which I've got on the mantelpiece still, and a $5,000 check. And for me, that was just unbelievable. And I think the TV presence really blew it out of the water for us. We became sort of household names. And then the Auckland Museum bought the piece, and that's where it sits now, which is amazing. And I think that was, wow, we can actually do it because we were so different. People were always like, oh God, they're not going to last. It's just, a folly because their designs are so different to what everyone else is doing. But what they didn't realize is that's what people wanted. We were giving people what they wanted. So we had construed a market for ourselves, and it was young people that were just bored on weekends when they couldn't shop because shops shut on Sunday and didn't stay open after 1 o'clock on a Saturday, which is just nuts because you pay rent.
That's right. And what does success look like to you?
I never think of it like that. I just see myself as an employee because I am. But I have to make decisions that are in the best interest of the company and the people that work for me. And we're very much a team. We're very much the world family. So all our staff come to us if there's anything they want to discuss. We don't have a hierarchy. They come directly to us. We work in the open plan office with everybody else. And we're very hands-on. So if someone's got something they want to discuss, we're there to listen to it. And I think that's part of our culture and what people appreciate. We don't have this, you've got to make an appointment and you'll never get to see the woman at the top or the man at the top because they don't talk to, staff. We're completely the opposite and always have been. And I think the staff appreciate that. And I think that's very important for businesses. You can't have the bosses sitting in an ivory tower thinking they're too cool for school and, well, I'm not talking to you. You can't do that. You've just got
such an old school leadership and management methodology or approach.
Yep, you've got to be hands-on. You've got to be there. You've got to know what's going on with your staff if there's a problem with anything, and you've got to be accountable too to how you react with that. You can't ignore it. You've got to deal with it. And when they come to you because they know that you're the person that can make changes. And I think a lot of businesses don't do that. And it's important. You move with the times, and everything has so changed, particularly now the internet, And everyone has an opinion on everything, which I find quite difficult.
Yep.
I'm very opinionated, but there's nothing you can do or say that's not commented on or pulled apart like a freaking chicken,
Yeah.
And to get right down to the bones. It's
Yep.
like, oh, really? Do you need to dissect this? It's
Yes.
nothing that needs dissecting. It's pretty standard.
Yep.
But that's what everyone wants to do, and everyone does it anonymously, so they can say what they like. I just don't understand that at all. So yeah, we're just very hands-on.
Good. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
To marketing a fast-growing business, well, if it's a fast-growing business, the marketing obviously is doing very well. It's about the product. It's always about the product. The product has to be great. It has to do what it says it's doing. Now, I've seen so many fashion brands come and go in the time we've been going. And some of these brands were enormous brands when we started out. We never ever thought we'd reach anything like that. In terms of, if you'd said fast forward 32 years, you're still going to be doing this, I would not have believed that at all. It was just something we had to do because we had to earn money. And so I think a lot of brands market themselves and they spend all their money on marketing and not on the product. It's about, this is amazing, this is great. And it's not great. The product's shit.
Yep.
The concept is shit. Everything is shit and it's not new and it's been done before. But they spend all their money on marketing, telling people it's amazing, it's the second coming. And it's not. And we don't do that. We don't spend any money on marketing. We don't advertise. It's always been word of mouth.
Right.
And that's how we've survived. But the product is good. I know when I send you something of mine, you will not be bringing it back a week later saying the button's fallen off, I washed it, the sleeve fell off. Whereas companies that sell the $5 t-shirt, you wash it, the sleeve falls off, and you think, oh, I'll just chuck it out.
Yeah.
Because it cost me $5. Yeah, not with us. We've never done that, and I'll never do that. But those brands that do it market it so well that people think they're actually getting a bargain when they're not. It's just a false economy.
Yep, no, I totally agree. So funding your business growth, apart from starting up that $400, check any other investors on the way or bank finance?
We have never had investors.
Yep.
We do run an overdraft, absolutely, as most businesses do. You need that, particularly in fashion, because we work 6 months minimum ahead. So when we're showing our summer in the store, our winter is made and it's sitting on the rack. So we've paid for the fabric, we've paid for the cutting, the making, the buttons, the buttonholing, the zips, we've paid for everything. And we're not going to start recouping that for 6 months. So you have to have a lifeline there to get you through that till the garments actually go in store, because it's not till they hit the racks that they start selling. But no, otherwise, we've just cut our suit according to our cloth.
Great.
If we don't have the money, then we can't do it. And we haven't diversified. I know a lot of fashion brands diversifying, they do this and that, but it's all cheap and it's all out of China. And that's just not where we want to be as a brand. So we've just stuck to what we are good at and what we know, which is making great clothes and employing locals.
And if you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Well, that's a really good question. Well, it's all I can do. So yes, I probably would, but it would probably be, well, I can't say it would be a different business. I mean, there's lots of things we would love to do, but due to funding, we can't do them. So we'd probably do a bit more of that.
Yeah.
But what we have is what we love. And, we have so many people that come in every day and say, God, your store is so amazing. Never seen anything like it. And what I think people have to remember too is not only am I a retailer, I am a consumer. I consume a lot. I love consuming. I love going out. I love looking at things. I like finding things. And that's why you have to have interesting things. If you're going to start a business, don't buy something a guy down the road has. You know, a lot of companies open businesses and open shops, and they're selling things that you can get anywhere. Same shit, different label. So why would you do it? Because the only thing that happens then is you start fighting on price. The man down the road has the same shoe you have.
Yep.
So you're going to get into a price war. And the middle market is a very dangerous market to be in. There's the low market, the middle market, and the high market. So we've always stuck at high. And you can't get our product anywhere than through us and through our stores, which makes it, we're very vertical retailers.
Yes.
And most of that is because we are consummate, what's the word? Control freaks.
Yep.
Consummate control freaks.
Yep.
And, you know, we've wholesaled, and we don't like the way you display our things. We don't like you shoving it on the racks like that. That's not how we display it. We're not on plastic hangers. Not going to do it.
So you tried wholesale and then brought it back in-house?
Yeah, we just thought, no, it's just...
You got full control and you got full margin as well. It's great.
Yeah. And if you want it, you have to come to us. And that's online is great now.
Yeah.
For that, for people that shop where our shops aren't, it's very available. But that's how we retail it. So we can control everything and how the brand works. Because otherwise you just sell down the brand sometimes. I mean, I've seen other brands all over shops and they're so badly displayed. And you think, oh my God, I just would die if my product.
That control is even more important, obviously, for a fashion business. So it's a really smart move.
Well, it's all about presentation and looks. And I've always thought that your business should be an extension of your personality. So you're not inventing anything. It's, you know, so many people want to be like other people. They go, oh, I want to be like that brand, or I want to look like her, and I want to do. Don't. You're not going to be that person. You're not going to be that brand. It's not you. You've got to stay true to you. And if you want to put it on a plastic hanger because that's what you like, then you do that.
Yep.
If you want to put it on a wooden hanger because that's what you like, then you do that. Don't copy or look at other people for inspiration. You've got to, you know, have your own signature. That is very important. That, you know, I know when a World garment is out there, people know immediately, oh, that's from World, because it's so different to everything else. And that's the whole point for me, is it stands out on its own and it's just not muddled up with the rest.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
When we opened the shop, when we took the lease, well, Francis took the lease on the shop. He came home and just said, I've taken the lease on the shop. And I went, what? What are we going to sell? Like, we've got nothing to sell. And he said, his words were, don't worry, we'll find something. And so we had taken the lease on this tiny shop. We opened, and then the previous owner turned up one day after we'd been open for like 6 months saying, oh, I've come to get my door.
What?
And I said, what door? And he said, my front door. And I said, what do you mean your front door? He said, well, it's mine. I'm taking it. So I'd been leased a shop without a door. And so I went to the landlord and he said, it's not my responsibility. I said, well, it actually is, because you cannot lease me a doorless shop.
Fuck.
And I realized then you have to read everything. You have to question everything. And, you know, you don't have to say, is that door my door? But you assume that the chattels that are there are going to stay there. And someone's not going to walk in 6 months later and remove it because it's not part of it. So anyway, the landlord did put in a very nice door, a proper door. And the other person took their door, and good luck to them. So things like that really stressed me out. I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting in my shop and the guy's taking the door away.
Yep.
And there was another time that another fashion person tried to have us close down because our jean sales were usurping his. So he went to a factory that we used and said, you're not to make their clothes. And the factory said, well, I make clothes for lots of people. And he said, you're not specifically allowed to make for World. And if I see their clothes here again, that you're making their jeans, I'll throw them out in the street. So I contacted him directly and said, what do you think you're doing? he said, I'm not talking to you, and got a lawyer onto it. And that stressed me out a bit. The guy with the factory decided, I'm going to listen to him and I'm not going to make your jeans anymore. And I said to the guy, you know what's going to happen. He's going to eventually get rid of all your customers till he is your only customer. And then he's going to pull the rug from under your feet. He didn't believe me. And that is exactly what happened. The guy was such a bully. He got the factory to only make his jeans, pulled them out, sent them to China, bought the guy's factory, had all the infrastructure, but not the guy.
What an asshole.
Yeah, he is. And I still see him, you know, around the traps.
Yep.
So I think you have to really stand up for yourself. And that was very hard because he was very high up compared to us, had lots of shops and was very well known. And so it was quite hard to actually stand my ground. Like, you know, we had a cupboard shop, but we were churning out so many jeans a day. And then we had to go to another factory whose minimum was 500. And that was huge for us.
Yep.
Because he could just do 30, 50, 100 at a time, whatever you wanted. But the bigger factories were like 500 at a time. So we suddenly had to go to 500 at a time. And of course, having to pay for that in one fell swoop was enormous, just enormous. Now I would probably go and punch him in the face because I just wouldn't stand for it.
Yep.
He hid behind his lawyer, don't know what you're talking about. So I reported him to the Commerce Commission because I said, you can't do this. You can't try and stop someone from trading.
Did they do anything about it?
No, he denied everything. And in those days, it wasn't as staunch as it is now.
Yep.
But I think for people starting out, you've got to be aware of the pitfalls, that not everyone's your friend. People get very jealous. And you've just got to approach everything in a very business-like manner and professional manner. And I just don't ever take it personally. I don't care if you like me or not. This is how it is. And you can't interfere in my business. So that's a very, very important thing to know. Have a good lawyer as well. You know, we didn't even have a lawyer. We didn't have an accountant. We just didn't know about all those things that we learned very quickly about. And you do learn from your mistakes enormously quickly.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I don't care how much money you've got behind you. It's still going to impact you. There's going to be things that come up and you just go, what?
I've got to say the front door is the most bizarre, stressful moment I've heard on the cast yet.
Oh, I'm sure there are millions more I can think of, but that one was one, I think that actually kept me up at night.
Yep.
Because we had to stay in the shop till the new door was put in.
Wow.
And I just thought, what if the landlord doesn't pay? What are we going to do? We can't afford a new door. Where do we get a new door? It was just, you know, we've got a baby, we've got this new shop. But we hadn't been in it long enough. And we had no family in business. We had no friends that had businesses. So we really were on our own. But yeah, amazing. We've managed to keep going.
And what area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
That's added the greatest value? Well, the brand. The brand is all you have, and how you present that brand and how people see and perceive that brand. And, you know, our shop is like our home. It's just, that's what it is. That's us. Everything you see in it is what we would love in our home, because that's what we're like. And that's why I think it's a very passionate brand. And you've got to have that passion. If you go into it just purely thinking, oh, I'm going to make loads of money, you may well make loads of money, but the passion's not there.
Yep.
We never went into it thinking we're going to make loads of money. We went into it because we were bored and because we saw a gap and we thought we could fill that gap. We could do something no one else in New Zealand is doing. And that's what we did. And it was when New Zealand obviously needed it. And I'm not saying there weren't fashion brands around. There were huge fashion brands around, but they were just doing the look of the season, or they weren't dynamic enough. And so nothing that we came up with could you get anywhere else, the idea wise. So that's what made us different and stand apart.
What have you enjoyed least about managing the fast growth?
Oh God, tax, dealing with the government, all the things you have to do now. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't say this, you can't. I was like, oh my God. Never ending. I mean, we've just been told we have to give our staff another public holiday.
Really?
The Matarangi, yep, starting next year, I think.
How many have you got at the moment? 11 over there, public holidays?
No, yeah, probably 12, I think.
My God.
But there's another one. So we're having another one, and they're not taking one away to replace it with this, but it's another one. So when you've got 40 staff and you've got to pay all of them their normal pay for not being there, how the hell are you meant to grow a business? And I find often the governments, whoever's in power, they come up with these things, but none of them have ever had a business. They've never run a business. They've never had to pay people. They've never gone, oh shit, where are we going to get the rent from this week? And we've got all these other bills to pay. They've never done that. So they said, oh, wouldn't it be nice to give them another public holiday? Because we'll get a good vote then. That'd be great. We'll do that then. It's just like, we've just come out of COVID. Are you insane?
Yep.
We've all been shut down completely. And then you go, let's have another public holiday. Who makes up this shit? I mean, seriously. Why don't you just go and knock on a business person's door and say, is this a good idea? And I think unanimously they'll say, no, it's a really bad idea. Great for the public. Business people are going to hate you. But they don't.
I could never understand why my dad, who was a fuel distributor, used to complain all the time about all the public holidays in Victoria.
It's just, it really holds a business back. And, you know, staff don't realise that with all the public holidays, plus their set holidays, plus bereavement leave, sick leave, each staff member is off for 2 months a year.
Yeah,
that's what it all adds up to. 2 months a year. So each person you're paying for 2 months not to be at work.
Yeah.
So you almost have to have another person that you don't really need just to fill in the gaps. So, you know, I really think about people that run supermarkets. You've got hundreds of staff, and you've got to pay them all a day for not being there. Or if you are open, it's time and a half and a day in lieu.
Yes. Wow.
And what the government needs to understand is that money has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And the only way it's going to happen is if they put the prices up of their product.
So
really no one's winning. No one's winning. All those people with the extra day off are going to have to pay more to go and buy the groceries.
And what do you love most about growing a small business?
Just seeing the growth when you open a new store, because we always go down and we design all our own stores. We do everything. You know, like I said, we're absolutely crazy control freaks and in every aspect of the company. I think being recognised is lovely too. You know, there are great things too. When you go down country, people go, oh my God, you're that woman from World. And you think, wow, I've really achieved something. I've got a legacy. And it's a really nice thing to be recognised for your hard work. Not that everyone doesn't work hard. People all work hard and are often not recognised for what they do. So I think we're in a very lucky position to have been recognised and to have, you know, promoted New Zealand made product and, you know, presented overseas on international stages, little old New Zealand. I mean, that's what it's
Fabulous.
all about, I think. Yeah.
What's been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
I think the internet. I have an enormous love-hate relationship with the internet and with everything it brings. And I think it's great for business growth. You do online, but also you don't want to kill the bricks and mortar, the shops that people want to come into. And you see this more and more and how it's really changed as where landlords would, you know, be at the pinnacle because they could say to you, this is the rent you're paying, this is what I want. If you don't pay it, someone else will. And then suddenly you see all these shops closing down because people say, well, I'm just going to put my business online. I don't need bricks and mortar. And you think, oh, is it all going to change? I think it will. I think it's going to do a full circle and people are going to want to go back to the touching, the feeling, the seeing. So that for me has been enormous, that shift that you can buy something online and I can get something sent to me from London. It arrives quicker than if I get something sent from Wellington.
Wow.
So Wellington, I've had things that take 2 weeks from Wellington and I order something from London and it's on my door in 3 days.
That's amazing. And Wellington's on the North Island as well as Auckland.
Exactly. And you think, okay, how did that work?
Yeah.
So, and being able to do things through the internet, it's just weird for someone like me. And we used to write out, when we started hand receipts, you wrote a receipt out. Now everything's on computer, all the stock's on computer. You press a button, people just tap a card. It's like, wow. And, and I've been into shops now and because of COVID, they're not taking cash. I mean, it's legal tender. They say we don't take cash. And I said to Francis the other day, do you ever think there was a time that people would say, we don't accept cash?
Well, I read a report the other day. They believe that cash will pretty much be not used in Australia anymore in about 4 or 5 years, thanks to COVID.
It's just unbelievable. But does a credit card that you continually use and the PIN pad not touched by people like money?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
What's the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Be true to yourself and customer service. It's all about the customer. You're nothing without your customer. And you've always got to think that, and you've got to look after them. And you've got to keep in touch with them. Got to let them know what's going on. You've got to hold special events. We hold lots of special events for our customers and for our database. We do launches. We do all sorts of things. But to keep them involved and to let them know that, we really do appreciate them being our customers, because where would you be without them?
Exactly. Yeah. Do you love talking small business growth with other owners? We have a vibrant online community from many industries around the world. Plus, we regularly add new tools and resources for community members and host 2 webinars a month to help you grow your small business. growsmallbusiness.com. And can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
We're very strict on you. When you come into a company like ours, you're either going to fit in or you're not. And that's just the way it is. You either think like us or you don't. Mm-hmm. So we've had people over the years. I mean, we've got staff that have been with us over 20 years.
Yep.
And they've come from school. We've actually got 3 staff that have been with us that long. And they'd come from school, didn't know what they wanted to do, and slotted in to our mindset and how we do things and how we run the business. And then we've had people that have come that just haven't. Like, you just think, you're a round peg and we're a square hole, and it's not going to fit. And I've also found that it doesn't matter how many degrees you've got, how many years you've spent at university. I find that Joe blogs off the street, no university, nothing like that, just has lots of passion and wants to get into fashion, succeeds those people, because they come in with all these preconceived ideas of, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that because I've been at university. No. And you all have to start somewhere. I remember we had a work experience guy, and I really don't encourage work experience unless it's for like an apprenticeship.
Yep.
Because staff have to take time off doing what they're doing to show someone something for 2 weeks. And we had this guy, and I wasn't going to take him, and the university said, no, he's amazing. He's going to, capture the world. His fashion's incredible. You've never seen anything like it. Please have him for 2 weeks. Oh God, Denise. And I said, all right. So he turns up, and normally they start off doing something that could be considered menial, I don't know, sorting buttons, whatever. Rarely are they allowed to cut fabric. It's so expensive, they get it wrong. But we thought, no, we're going to let him. He can cut some garments out, some samples. So he cut them out. Next day, he didn't turn up. So I contacted the university. I said, he hasn't turned up. And they said, oh, well, that's really weird. We'll contact him and see why. And he said, I'm a fashion designer. I'm not going to cut clothes out. And I thought, pardon, what? And they said, oh no, he wants to design. And I said, is he actually stupid? He wants to, so he comes in for work experience and he says, I'm not going to cut out. So from the very beginning, he had decided, I'm not cutting that out and I'm not machining that because, you know, I am a designer. Well, where does he think he will start? I still take out the trash.
Yep.
I still clean the kitchen. If it needs doing and I'm walking past and I see it needs doing, I do it. I don't care. I don't get someone else to do it. And I never ask staff to do something that I wouldn't do myself, which I think, again, is a very important thing.
Yes.
And I said to the lecturer, his lecturer, I can guarantee you now, I will never hear his name mentioned in the fashion industry ever, because he's not going to make it. And he never did. And I think, you know, he just had so much smoke blown up his backside by these people that he paid money to learn this skill, saying, you're the second coming. And he wasn't. And you just start at the bottom. And that's, I think, what you have to realize too, is that you're never, no matter how high up the food chain you are, you're never too good for anything.
Yes. You
just do whatever needs to be done. And, you know, we've got the most delightful lady that works for us with disabilities. And she's worked with us for 8 years now. And so she does all sorts of different things. And one day, one of the machinists said to me, oh, Denise, I'm going insane because I'm spending so much time having to find the colour threads that I need. And I said, what do you mean? They're all on the shelf. They're all in colour coded. They've got the colour of the thread on the outside of the box and the number. So they look through the chart, they pick the one they need, they go to the number and they get it. And she said, well, when I open the box, the colour that it says in the box is never in the box. It's always another colour, and it's taking us ages to go through everything. And the lady that does this, that was part of her job, was at the end of the week, she gets up all the cotton reels that the machinists have left and she puts them back into the thing. So I said, Jo, what's been happening with all the thread? Because the machinists have said they're not being put back in their same boxes. And she said, I just didn't know what the numbers were for on the reels of thread. So I just put them in any box. So that weekend, I took home every single box of threads. I put them on the lounge floor and I spent the whole weekend putting them into their right boxes, because that's what needed to be done. It needed to be done for Monday morning, and there was no one that was going to give up their weekend to do it. So I did it. Jo said she was very glad because she didn't want to do it anymore anyway.
Well, over 32 years, you've got to 35 or 40 FTE. Any other tips on recruiting people, getting people on your bus? Recruiting
people, honestly, is very difficult these days because you can't just get rid of a staff member if they've done something wrong. And it can be something major, but they have to have their 2 written and 1 verbal, and it has to be about the same thing. So you could have someone stealing and you can't fire them. Wow. They will take you to a tribunal. There is no doubt about that. And I've talked to other business people that said they just put 10 grand aside every year to deal with staff they need to pay off to go away.
Wow. Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? We've just gone through something similar here at one of the businesses I sit on the board on, and it's very, very frustrating and infuriating that you're just held to ransom.
You are held to ransom, absolutely. And, you know, I get that you want to be given a fair hearing, but if you're stealing from someone, be it money, be it clothes, be it product, be it anything, you know, you've got to take account of that, and you should be able to get rid of someone if they're doing that, but you can't. So that is a very difficult thing that we have to deal with, that all business owners have to deal with. And all staff steal to some point, be it a pen, be it a paperclip.
Time.
You know, time. They all go over an extra 5 minutes for tea break. They all go over an extra 5 minutes for lunch. This is 3 times a day, 5 minutes with every staff member every day, you add that up in a year, it's a lot of time. And you don't want to go to, clocking in, clocking out, but you have to keep an eye on it. And, those things are very difficult for staff to deal with, because you take someone on, and I don't know why the government seems to think that, why would you possibly get rid of someone that's good? You're not going to do that, because it's so hard to get good staff. So when you do get someone good, you want to keep them.
Yep.
So you're not going to get rid of them for no reason.
No.
And then you get dragged through a tribunal. And I think that needs to be looked at. But again, people in the government have never had their own businesses, so they don't understand. If they have to pay people out, it's not out of their personal pocket.
No.
It's out of our pocket, because we're the taxpayer. So I think they need to engage more with businesses, and small businesses, not the big monstrous businesses that they deal with. People actually run their own companies. That's what needs to happen. They need to listen to them a bit more, because fundamentally, those small to medium enterprises are the backbone of the country.
Yeah, they provide more than half of jobs in most developed nations around the world.
Absolutely. It's not the Spark and the Telecom or the whoever. It's not them. They have enormous staff, but then you add up all the little people, and they've got a lot more.
Yep. And is it in New Zealand, is it 3 or 6 months probation? You can get rid of someone without them coming at you for unfair dismissal?
You're not allowed that at all now.
Wow. Okay.
Got rid of it. It was 3 months.
Yep.
And then they got rid of it. So you're stuck.
All right. Australia's 6 months, but yeah, I didn't realise.
Is it?
Yeah, I didn't realise New Zealand had removed the 3 months. Wow.
Yeah, and England, you can fire someone for theft on the spot. You can't hear. And, if you're going to accuse them of stealing, you have to prove it.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you can prove it, you're not going to get rid of them for nothing. It's just very unfair.
What are some things you'd recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Well, today the byword is sustainability, and one of our biggest, I wouldn't call it a department store, the warehouse, it's just a big monolith that sells everything from thimbles to you name it, they sell it. And I've noticed on television they've been doing this big campaign about sustainability, recycling. And I've thought about their packaging, just their packaging alone, because everything they sell is imported, every single thing. And they import enormous terracotta pots. Well, you can imagine the packaging that would go into a terracotta pot coming halfway around the world. And so I think, well, how do you get rid of that sustainably? How do you do all of that? But then they sell the $5 t-shirt. So you're talking about sustainability, but I can tell you now, as a fashion manufacturer, there is someone not getting paid, because you cannot buy the fabric. I can't even buy the fabric for $5, let alone retail the garment. So you've got to buy the fabric, you've got to get a pattern cutter to cut it out, you've got to have the pattern made. You've then got to tag it, label it, send it halfway around the world. Someone has to unpack it, label it, put it on the rack. These people they get holiday pay, they get all the other things. They have lighting, heating, aircon, nice places to work in. And you're making 100% minimum markup on that $5 t-shirt. How? I don't understand how. So don't put your adverts on TV about your sustainability, because I can tell you right now, that is not sustainable. But they do it.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
Do you mean the work-life balance?
Yeah.
Don't have it. When I always saw the business as a child. It needs to be fed, it needs to be watered, it needs to have daily contact, it needs to be looked after, otherwise it won't perform for you. And with a child, there are no off days, they're there all the time. And that's the same with the business. There's no like, oh, we can do this and we can have X amount of time off, because you can't, it's your business. And if there's a major problem, you've got to be there or have someone that is there that can hold the reins and deal with it. And, it always happens when you least expect it. Anyone knows that. And just things like, you're on track and then suddenly a couple of staff members are sick and you know that that's not going to be out when it should be out. Just those sorts of things. So you never have any downtime. You just don't. I can't imagine how any business people, because I often think I would just love to have worked for someone and had all my holiday pay and all my sickness paid for, and I could go off on my 4 weeks a year holiday and not have to worry about a single thing. When you're overseas, you're constantly in contact with the business to see what's going on, what's happened. Blah, blah. So you can never leave it alone. It's your child, and you've got to treat it like that. It needs looking after all the time. Otherwise, it'll come back and bite you on the backside.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself over the 32 years?
Professional development? None. I think that you learn everything on the ground, and there's no course, there's nothing that anyone can teach me which I haven't learned from my mistakes. So I don't, and people might think this is wrong. I mean, there are things that I might like to look into doing, but I'm so busy doing what I do that I don't feel I have the time. But being on the ground, any new thing that comes up, you have to engage with. So you learn all the new things all the time. So, you know, things like when we had to go onto computer and when we had to change everything and how we had to scan everything. We never did scanning. So all that's something you just learn as you go along. I don't need to go on a course to learn all those new things. They just happen. You have to envelope them.
And have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
No, never had a mentor, never had a coach. We did go on a TV program. We were asked to years ago, like right at the beginning. And we had to go over to Waiheke Island for 2 days, I think, Francis and I. And it was this TV thing about businesses and that were starting out. And we had this mentor, and he was some huge guy in marketing that had run all these successful companies, including Watties, you know, the frozen food company. And he was, you know, the man on the ground. And he said, sat there with us, you know, and said, well, the one thing you have got to do is change your name. You've got to change the name of World, because when you say World, I say, well, what do they sell? Well, I thought, well, when I say Watties, if you said it's someone who didn't know what it was, they wouldn't think peas, frozen peas. And I said, well, no, that's the one thing that people can recognize us by is our brand name. And he said, no, you need to change it. And so we went to and fro. And so at the end of the 2 days, you know, being filmed, they said, you know, are you going to change your name? That's the big thing. Are you going to do it? And I said, no, we're not going to do it. We disagree. We're going to keep what we've got. And he said, oh, it's the biggest mistake you made. 32 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know where he is, but we're still here.
It's gold.
So, you know, you can have all those experts, but it's your gut that tells you what to do. You know, if you know your business, what is the right thing for you and the business to do.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
We do have, well, just Francis, Benny and myself. Benny is also a director that started off as a shop boy with us many years ago, and he's been made a director.
Great.
So it's just the three of us. We meet when we can, and we see each other every day. So we're always discussing things, you know, throughout as they come up, rather than sit with a big list once a week, which we do as well. But we're very hands-on, we're very communicative. So we find that works for us, and we're all very outspoken. We don't hold back with things we want to talk about or ideas we want to implement. And we've been fairly lucky that we all agree on the way the business is run and what direction we're going to go in. Because the most important thing I think for businesses is change. You can't flog a dead horse. You've got to change. You've got to be innovative. You've got to bring in new things. You've got to constantly, reinvent yourself, particularly in fashion. Every 6 months we completely change everything. You go in one day and it's one look, and you come in the next day, the season's changed and it's completely different. Most businesses don't have to do that. They just have their products and they sell them, but you do have to change that. You can't just keep selling the same thing, because people will go, well, I'm not going in there because I know what they sell. And just recently, actually, this is quite a weird thing. This guy used to come into our Newmarket store every Sunday, and I worked every Sunday in our Newmarket store for years. And he would come in with his wife and he would walk around the shop, and the shop assistant and I would just go, oh, no, it's him again. Never buys anything. And we go, hi. And he goes, hi. And we go, how are you? And he goes, fine. And we're like, oh, really? We just could never engage with him. He never wanted to talk. He just wanted to look around, and then he would leave. We would look at each other and say, every Sunday he comes in with his, why does he do that? Why? It's so weird. And we found out he was a lecturer at university. Anyway, just before Christmas, his wife came into one of the shops and she saw Francis, and she said, oh, I just wanted to let you know my husband had died. And he said, oh no, that's terrible. And she said, do you know what? We used to go into your Newmarket shop every Sunday because it was the one shop that he just loved going into. He loved seeing everything you had. He loved being in that environment. And it used to make him so happy. And I just wanted to thank you. And I thought, oh my God, all those years he used to come in, and I just thought he was winding me up because he never bought anything. But actually it was his place that he loved looking at and enjoyed. And he obviously didn't feel he needed to buy anything. He just wanted to be in that environment. And I thought that was just so lovely.
Wonderful testament, obviously, to your business and your brand.
And your product and the new things each week. You think, oh, that's new. I'll go and look at that. And that's so important that you've got to continually source and reinvent and make it interesting, because that's what gets you into those places.
Well, Dame Denise, one of our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Oh, capital, having money to grow that small business. Today, I can't imagine that Francis and I would have been able to do what we did in 1989, because things have changed so much, and you need, a marketing profile, and you need an online profile, and you need all these sorts of profiles, and you didn't need those then. But it's always being undercapitalized, and we're still undercapitalized, all those years later. But you can't overextend yourself, because it could all end like in a house of cards. So you've just got to be careful, and the decisions you make sure that they're the right decisions and that you can afford those decisions. Don't go ordering all this stuff if you know that there's no way on earth you're ever going to be able to pay for it, because that's going to take you under. So you've just got to be, I think it's sensible. And so before I had a business, I would probably have said I wouldn't have a business unless I knew a lot about business and had done a business course. But I was thrown into it, and necessity is the mother of invention. And I learned from those mistakes. So I don't think like that anymore. I think if that's your passion, you've got to do it, but you've got to understand that, there's a chance it might not work. No one opens a business with the intention of it closing. We all open it with the best intentions. And over COVID, we've seen so many businesses close down because of COVID and being undercapitalized and not being able to trade for so long. And I completely understand that, and I completely sympathize. And I feel so sorry for those people, because it's just heart-wrenching. It's your life. It's, like I say, your child. It's like losing a child. You've lost something that you've built up from scratch for so long and has been part of your life. So it's just, I always think, start off small. We started off small, and we just grew as we went along. We didn't think, oh, we're going to have these enormous shops 32 years later. That was never it. It was just really slow and steady wins the race. We're the snail. We're not the rabbit or the hare.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Nope, never read a business book.
What about it? Yeah.
I just don't. I don't read things that don't inspire me. And I know if I read a book on business, I'd just be bored within the first page, because I think I know that. I've done that. I've lived through that. I've run a business.
Yep.
There's no one, I think, that can come out and say to me, if you do this, Denise, your business is going to skyrocket.
Yeah.
Because we'd all be reading that book, and we'd all be doing it, and all our businesses would have skyrocketed. But they haven't. So I don't.
What about any great podcasts or online learning tools?
Don't do anything like that. No, I just go into my business every day, and I do what needs to be done. And haven't grown as fast as some businesses, grown faster than others. You've just got to be happy with what you've got. If it's not going the way you want it to go, then change it. You're the only person that can do that.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
One tool. Maybe a mentor, someone that has had a business or similar to yours.
Yeah, it's further down the road.
The ropes, and would advise you without charging you too much, and with being realistic and honest and upfront. I think that's really important, is that you want, I mean, people often come to me and say, you know, oh my God, what do I do? Da, da, da. And I'm quite happy to help them out. I don't have any problem with that, but I can only talk from my experiences. So I would say a mentor, or just someone that you can completely confide in, that can help you and advise you and let you know you're going the right way, because you've got to think of all the other things that are out of your control, like that the government insists you do, particularly when you start taking staff on. You know, if you've got one staff member in your one shop and that staff member's sick, then you've got to go in and do it. And you've got to be prepared for all those things.
Finally, my favorite question: what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
Do something else. Look, I don't think many people would employ me because I'm too creative and I'm too fluid, and you know, I go one way one day and another way the next day. I don't mean I change my mind all the time. I don't at all. But I like things done quick, and I like to see things done, like just get it done, get it out there. I want it now. Very impatient. But I would have loved to have experience working for an enormous company that just pays me lots of money and I have a great holiday. But then I don't know if I would ever, because I was actually fired once for insubordination. And Francis said, that's why we started World, is because you got fired for insubordination. And it's probably true. So I don't think I would have lasted with anyone. No. So being your own boss is a great thing, because you get to do what you want. But you have to know the pitfalls and the decisions that you make affect the business and all the other people in the business. And I think particularly like over COVID, we've learned that with staff is like, okay, these decisions we're going to make and implement, we're doing for all of you so that you still have jobs. We could just go off and go, oh, well, everyone's got to go because it's COVID and we can't afford to pay you. So I probably wouldn't change anything. I just, I think it's good as long as you keep growing. You've got to make sure that your business keeps growing, otherwise you stagnate. And so you have to really have your eye on the ball all the time and make sure that it just each year goes up, goes up, goes up, goes up. And if it's not, then you've got to look at what you're doing. And if it means cutting things, then that's what you have to do to survive. And it's all about survival, isn't it? I mean, that's what it is.
Well, thanks for your time today, Dame Denise. I think the audience got a lot of value out of your journey and what you've shared with us today. Congratulations to yourself and Francis and the wider team. It's phenomenal growth over 32 years, up to 35 or 40 FTE, and till COVID, 6 stores. That's wonderful. Well done.
And I do have to say that this is the first time I've ever done a Zoom.
Oh, cool.
Because I just refuse to do them because I think I'm not going to like that. And thank you to Benny Castles who set me up this morning, because I said, I don't know what to do. So it's been a very pleasant experience.
Thank you.
I might do another Zoom sometime with someone else. Thank you, Troy.
Thanks. That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.